So, who are these original trans people I'm talking about? Well, they're people suffering from the most bizarre mental affliction imaginable. It's called transableism. They're completely able-bodied people that want to be disabled. Let's head over to the swamp and get this show on the road. Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to the swamp. Okay, some of you know me as the smoking golfer, giving golf lessons from here. Well, as of today, I'm the smoking patriot. So I'm trading in my golf club for a machete. Hey, I still need something to protect me from all these gators and cottonmouths around here. I'll take you back there sometime and show you. All right, when I first decided to do a video on this subject, I thought it would mostly be lighthearted teasing and a little laughing at the trans community, which I was looking forward to. But it turned into something much more dark and sinister. I mean, it's actually downright disturbing. Now, I first saw these people on some TV daytime talk show back in the 80s. There was a shitload of them on back then. I don't really remember which one it was. It was probably like Phil Donahue or it might have been Oprah. Anyways, these people were talking about how they saw themselves or identified as amputees and that they knew they were born in the wrong bodies and how they knew since they were kids that they were meant to be amputees. And they all said that when they looked in a mirror, they saw themselves as amputees and real specific about what wasn't right. Like it had to be a particular leg or arm and where it had to be cut off on. And, some of them, it was, one guy, it was both legs because he also saw himself in a wheelchair. I know, that's some crazy shit. Now you tell me, who does that sound like? It's damn near exactly the same thing these transgender nutcases say. A lot more than that in a minute here. Okay, here comes the dark shit. So what do these people do to solve their problem or dilemma? Well, the obvious thing to do would be to ask a doctor to chop your leg or your arm off. And that's what they did. Now, they also had a bunch of doctors on the show, and they were all adamant that there's no way in hell any doctor in his right mind would ever even consider chopping off a perfectly functioning limb just to satisfy someone's insane, delusional fantasy. And of course, they were right. But these days, they'd probably be like, well, yeah, I'll chop your dick off or I'll chop your tits off, but no way will I cut off your arm or leg. Or they might be more like, if that's what you think you need to feel good about yourself, nurse, get me the bone saw. So here's what they did to overcome this hurdle or get around this unfair blockade. And they were all doing it. They would freeze the unwanted body part off. Yeah, these crazy fucks would stick it in ice until it was dead or frostbit or gangrene or whatever happens. Well, then the doctors had to amputate to save their lives. And recently I've read about them using knives and even chainsaws to do enough damage so it has to be amputated. Now, here's the disturbing part. If you're wondering why you haven't heard about these transableist people and why they're not part of the LGBT community, well, it's not because they don't want to be. It turns out they've been lobbying for years to be included, but those LGBTQ mobsters refuse to let them in. I wonder why. Could it be that the transgenders see these transableists the same way we do? Meaning people with some kind of deep psychological problem or mental illness. Well, of course they do. Who wouldn't? And if they acknowledge that, well, then they'd have to acknowledge that they're pretty much exactly the same. You think they don't recognize the exact same symptoms that they experience? You know they do. And they know everyone else would too. It would totally ruin their grift, exposing that they're suffering from the identical mental illness as these transableists, which they are. So now I support these trans ableists fight to be included with the LGBT community of freaks. You know, they're always crying about inclusiveness and diversity, you know, when it suits them or their purpose, you know, or fits their agenda. Otherwise, they're like, fuck off, loser. So yeah, I figure supporting them, if nothing else, it'll expose the LGBTers for the hypocritical haters that they really are. In fact, I think the trans ableists have a leg up on the transgenders, no pun intended, and they're actually much more legitimate. You know, here's what I mean. We all know that no matter what the transgenders do, you know, like operations or hormones or implants, whatever, well, they're still the same sex that they started out as. You know, so they're still just living in a delusional fantasy. But you can't say to a trans ableist, hey, no matter what you do, you're still going to be an able-bodied person, because when they chop a limb off, they truly are exactly what they always wanted to be, an amputee. It's not a delusional fantasy for them anymore. It's as real as it gets. So, are they happy or satisfied with what they did to themselves? Well, I didn't follow up on that because I don't give a shit about their demented version of happy. All right, I'm going to end this with what I call shit off the top of my head. Or maybe stupid shit off the top of my head. You tell me. Well, this one is, if you have a cause you're trying to promote or push, but don't use the slogan, "It takes all of us." I'm sure you've all seen it. Well, that just sets you up as a loser right off the bat. You know, that's got to be the woke idiot's fairy tale mindset at work, because we know they don't have a clue about human nature. I mean, when was the last time in human history we all agreed on anything? I'd bet there are people during the Black Plague that thought it was a good thing. You know, the slogan should be like, it takes some of us, or at best, it takes most of us. Because a shitload of us ain't never going to agree, and that's human nature. Well, that's about it. Hope you liked what I said. Any comments or questions, you know what to do. And subscribe and like if you feel like it. See you next time.